Okay, it's recording. I'm not sure if and we are live. Okay, welcome back to Homegrown Stories, where we take a time to visit with amazing North Dakotans so everybody in North Dakota can know how amazing North Dakotans are. So today we have Clara Derby. Clara is going to be representing the college age crowd here in North Dakota, and that's why I'm wearing my little NDSU outfit today. So, Clara, welcome to Homegrown Stories, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? So, where are you from, and a little bit about your family history?
Hi, thank you. So I'm currently living in Fargo, North Dakota, but I go to school on the other side of the river at Minnesota State University in Moorhead. I grew up in Bismarck, where my family still lives, but me and my sister were originally born in Wyoming, so we can't say true born and raised in North Dakota. My mom's family, when they came to the U.S., they settled in Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara land that's now Hazen, North Dakota. And then in my dad's family, they homesteaded in Dakota land in now southern Minnesota.
All right. So you have you and your sister and your mom and dad, right? So when did your family move back here to Bismarck, or why did they move back?
We moved back to be closer to family, why most people come back to North Dakota.
Okay.
We came back in 2005, so I was about 7. So I've been here pretty much my whole life.
Okay. So you moved back, but you had a unique education growing up. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. So I spent 2 years in the Bismarck public school system, and then my mom and dad decided that they wanted to take me and my sister out of the public school system and homeschool us. So I was homeschooled from 5th grade to 8th grade. And that allowed us to do a lot of like hands-on learning. We did a lot of traveling and lots of crazy science experiments on the kitchen table. And it was definitely a really unique experience. And it changed a lot how I approached different things and different work.
Okay.
It was challenging, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. So for some of us that haven't been homeschooled, and I think there's a pretty large percentage of kids in North Dakota that are homeschooled. I'd have to check on that. So tell us how that works. So is your mom your teacher, and how does that work?
My mom taught me and my sister, and I don't quote me on any of this. I don't know what the laws are exactly. You have to be pretty strict on it, but we were able to choose like our own curriculum. And as long as we were doing well on like the state standardized testing and we're progressing where we needed to, we could really focus on what was actually interesting to us and have like a really customized education to like where we were at in our academic experience.
Yep. So what was interesting to you growing up?
I was a big reader. So like my mom had me reading Shakespeare in like early middle school and and like lots of different like science things. I dissected fish and salamanders on the dining room table and one of the big draws was travel. So like we went to Arizona and saw condors being released over the Grand Canyon. We went to Hawaii a few times to visit family there. And
yeah. So you're kind of like a naturalist, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
A shout out to Clara's mom. I think she's watching us. So hi, Clara's mom.
Hi, Mom.
What's your mom's name?
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. You raised a very amazing daughter. So so you're a naturalist. So in that, in addition to your education, you've had some pretty unique hobbies. So you're living in North Dakota in Bismarck. You're in town, right? You're not in the country, right? You weren't a country kid. You were a town kid.
We're a county township kids, so whatever that means.
Okay. Well, that helps. It just puts you in a place. So tell us about some of those hobbies in addition to your education that you did.
Yeah, so both my parents are wildlife biologists. And so we grew up running around outside. Both my parents' families still live on their farms. We would grow up running around the pasture and learning the birds and the trees and hunting, fishing, trapping, all that different stuff. So always been really engaged in the outdoors. And so now in my own time, this past spring especially, I got really into bird watching. I just checked, I've logged 62 different species across Minnesota and North Dakota this year. Yeah, and then I do like a lot of like hiking and backpacking and camping and that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. But you've also played some musical instruments, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know.
Say it again.
I don't know if that was a hobby or is that part of your education, but it was pretty unique. One of the hardest instruments to play. So if you
Yeah, I would say it was both hobby and part of my education. So my mom's mom, Louise, is a concert harpist, and so I grew up messing around and plucking on the strings and just kind of took a liking to it. And so I started harp in middle school and play to this day.
All right. And then, but you also, you play another instrument too, which was?
So I took piano as well. I started with piano just to learn like the basics. I learned music at like second grade or something like that. And then piano and harp just really complement each other really well. And piano is technically easier. And so it's easier to kind of think about theory and learn that kind of stuff through piano.
Yeah. So how did you compare? You compared the piano and harp to me in a very unique way. How did you say it?
Yeah, so playing the harp is basically like playing the piano, but vertically.
Okay, yeah. So I know it's a very hard one to do. So, so obviously just a lot of different experiences, all very natural, all a lot of different ways that you could go. And now you are in college and you're living in a community. You're living as an adult. And so tell us a little bit about what you've been doing as, well, some people said you were an activist, but it sounds like you're just more active in your community. So why don't you tell us about what you do in your community these days?
Yeah, so, I mean, as we've already gone over, my upbringing was very involved with learning about and experiencing nature and the outdoors and just the importance and how everything fits together. And so like as I got older and started paying attention to what was going on in the world, I became very engaged and passionate about the climate crisis. And that's kind of like what I've, you could say, like devoted my life to and figuring out what my role is in ending that. And then now with the Black Lives Matter protests and the murder of George Floyd, I've become more involved with Black Lives Matter and then One Fargo here in my community. And really how I see it, it all is connected in some way. The way our economic system is set up is to exploit our natural world and the people in it. And that has led to the unfortunate situations that we are in right now. So figuring out how to dismantle and rebuild for a better world.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're still so positive and everything, even like as you're understanding that. So what do you find is, I like how you are overlapping the two, like you're finding the same, maybe you're trying to solve the same problem, but they're manifesting separately. And what do you find is kind of most effective or that you can do most effectively? For example, as a college young adult, for climate, is it just understanding it more? Or are you trying to, well, we haven't talked about what you're doing in school, but like, is it just trying to understand it more? Or is your profession going to be in that? So how, as a college student, a young adult, becoming very aware and active in this, I think something's going on with my internet, but are you approaching this?
Sure. So yes, I mean, learning everything that I possibly can about it, that's just part of my nature of just how I approach anything. But it changes very little if I know quite a lot about it. And so that's currently where I'm at, is trying to figure out how to apply that knowledge and actually affect change. So right now I'm looking into, well, I've already taken a number of different climate activist trainings. I signed up for another one today. I've been involved in a couple different groups here in Fargo. But then looking long-term, looking into doing my master's degree in some sort of environmental policy or economic program, and then working within like those systems of power to, because we know the science. We know the scientists have been telling us for decades what we need to do. And so now it's just a matter of political and economic forces to actually enact those solutions.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to be.
Yeah, I got it. So, and actually we were talking once, you happen to have this unique naturalist background and also know a lot about windmills. And so this is just a little bit of diversion because I thought it was amazing. I just asked you that and you knew the answer. So one thing, you know, because we're trying to navigate like the different energy sources and how we evolve our energy systems to make sure we have energy, but also have enough, you know, environment to support the people. Wind and windmills come up, and then what I get confused about, because I'm also very much into birds and wildlife as a veterinarian, but can you tell me a little bit about the whole concept around wildlife, or particularly our bird population in the windmills? I'm confused about that, so we're going to get a little bit of an education publicly here.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, this is what scientists have told me. My dad has worked on this. He is a scientist, and this is what he says, is that while windmills do kill birds, like that is just a matter of how they navigate using light during the nighttime and during periods of migration. Windmills do strike and kill birds, especially larger birds like raptors. And so scientists have been working since wind turbines started being a thing, basically, to survey exactly how these windmills affect bird populations. And there are a number of different strategies of selecting sites that aren't high traffic areas for birds and just doing everything to mitigate those impacts. But the bottom line is that the amount of birds killed by wind turbines every year is ecologically insignificant. It is very sad. I love birds, and I can tell you this as a bird lover, that birds are not going to go extinct because of windmills, and that is not a reason to not invest in wind energy. Wind energy is a crucial part of the climate solution.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that, because I too love birds, and I guess what's hard is the windmill is so abstract, and that's abstract, as opposed to, like, I get owls brought to me that have been hit by cars, and owls happen to be my favorite bird. And that's just more obvious to see, like the amount of birds killed by cars. And would you say it's about similar, like windmills and cars?
No. So actually the number one anthropologic cause of bird death in the United States is cats. Cats kill about 1 billion birds every year. Next is cars. So cars, it's been a while since I've looked at the data, but cars kill about 500,000, and then wind turbines kill, I believe, less than 200,000 birds. So we're going from like 1 billion to 200,000. Like the scale of it is just not comparable.
So this is what I love about you, is that I could ask you anything and you'll put it all in perspective. And I shouldn't have brought up the cat and bird thing because that's very controversial. And this is about you. So
I'm just reporting the data.
Yeah, not that
my cats went outside too. Yep.
The science is solid there, but that's another issue. Okay, so I mean, you're so into so many different things, and it's part of, you know, one, you're growing up in North Dakota, and the natural world is just it's like another family member in most whatever. So how has your passions changed over time? I mean, I know you're focusing on climate, but was it just that natural curiosity, or how has that changed now that you're from a little girl, a harp player, to, you know, just, you know, dissecting snakes or whatever, to now, how did that change? Is it just?
No, I've always been a dabbler. I just flip from one thing from the other. And so I say that, like, I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm not very good at very many things. Like, I've never super specialized in anything.
Yeah, that makes you like a Renaissance man, but like.
I suppose, yeah. I don't know, I guess when I just think about where my skill set is, where my passions is, but more importantly, where the need is, I can't think of anything greater than climate change. And it is just very lucky that it aligns with my personal passions and hobbies.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just want to go where I feel the need is greatest.
Yeah, well, you're in the right spot. So are you knowing what you know then, and what affects change? I mean, it's a multifaceted approach. Do you think you're going to run for office someday?
Maybe, if my community calls on me to do so.
There you go. Very good. Okay. So has the COVID pandemic changed any of this for you, or brought it into more focus, or you know, you are now living through this pandemic, and we are seeing that fragility and everything in all our systems. So it seems like you're a very systematic thinker and how to problem solve. Has that changed anything for you, or is it just like you already knew it?
I don't want to be so arrogant as to say I already knew it, but yeah, I think it brought the pandemic, and so we collectively are going through we're going through a global crisis in a way that is more apparent and is impacting our daily lives more so than the global climate crisis has affected us in the global north. And so I think we're just kind of this is like the preview of what is to come. To avoid sounding very dire. And I think exactly like what you said. I think this has really exposed the fragility of our system and how interdependent a lot of our networks are, and how that makes us vulnerable. And it has, but also in like a more positive way, it has really shown us in a crisis what we as individuals, what our leaders, what our systems can do to adapt. And so in that way, it has given me hope that we are able, given the need, to make those changes. And the need is there. The need is there already for climate change. And it's just enacting those solutions now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you don't want to fall into despair, but it's also inspirational. I think there's something like 5,000 papers a week being published on just COVID alone. And like we can do it if we put our mind to it. We can solve these really global problems, and like the climate and everything. So you are currently in college, and tell us about how you chose where to go, and show us that little sign thing.
Yeah, so the Fargo-Moorhead area, we have 3 universities and I think 3 technical colleges too. So like there's a bunch of young people, and education is huge here. And so to distinguish ourselves a little bit, so there's like the classic bison sign. You'll see this all the way. But at MSUM, we're the dragons, so we go like this. But not really, because we're not very good at sports and don't compete on the same level as NDSU. But it's just a fun thing.
That's fun. I thought that was really cute. So clearly you could have gone any place in the world with your level of, background and way your mind works and stuff. So how did you choose to go to MSUM?
One, my parents made me go to an in-state or reciprocity school if they were going to help me pay for it. So it was just a matter of practicality. But in a more romantic sense, my mom and dad actually met at MSUM in an ecology class, and the professor still teaches there. I know her. My friends have taken classes from her. So in that sense, I'm a true baby dragon. And so yeah, growing up visiting Fargo, we have family here, would go and walk around the MSUM campus. And then when I toured it officially, it felt really small and intimate and really family oriented. And it's a liberal arts school. It's full of a bunch of weirdos, so I knew I would fit in pretty well.
I love that. But you still live in Fargo, so you're still a North Dakotan, but you're a baby dragon, and that's really sweet. I like that. So, so now what are you studying in college? What's your major?
Yep, so I have 1 semester left. I'm graduating in December with my BA in English, with certificate in professional writing, and then my BS in project management.
So what does a person do with that?
With a project management degree? Or
well,
with both?
What are you going to do with that combination and your passions? And so how are you going to, what happens after December?
That is, well, hopefully I'll be working in Bismarck at the state capitol.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I guess now I could not have told you that I had this amount of foresight when I started college at 18, but now I really understand my bachelor's experience to be that broad skill-based or skill building experience. So in whatever position you need to have good writing and communication skills and good project management skills. And so with that, I can take those skills into wherever my passion lies. So now, like I said, looking into doing my master's degree in something environmental policy related.
Okay. And you'll look into whatever, I mean, that's not necessarily going to be in North Dakota. It could be anywhere.
It could be in Europe, it could be in California. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, one of the things I always say, I mean, we grow a lot of great stuff here. But one of the greatest things we grow is people. And so I think you would be a fabulous ambassador of a North Dakotan, no matter where you go. So wear that with pride. So, okay. And your family, your sister is still here in North Dakota, right?
Yep, she's going to school at Bismarck State College.
Oh, okay. Also being very practical, going in state. Higher ed is super important here in North Dakota, and I think it's pretty good value. That's really good. Okay, so and so what do you do in your spare time then? You have all these kind of intense hobbies. Like, what do you do to relax? Or is that relaxing to you? Like,
no, that's relaxing to me. Bird watching, I mean, that is the most Zen meditation you can. I mean, I do meditate and practice yoga and mindfulness and that kind of stuff, but being outside and like having your senses turned on to nature is the best. There's no other way to say it. I also do a lot of like long distance endurance things. So I ran a half marathon this spring. I cross country ski in the winter and hike pretty much all year round. So
those are still intense.
Yeah, they're still intense. I don't really know. I like movies. I read. Play with my cat. Those are my low-key activities.
Okay, what's your favorite movie? What's a movie that you've watched like 5 times?
Probably the movies I've seen the most are the Harry Potter movies. Nothing academic or anything like that. I don't know. I mean, I started reading Harry Potter in 3rd grade and then read them as the books came out. And then like I was homeschooled. I was hanging out with my mom and sister all day. So like those were my friends.
Right.
Yeah, not to like disclose too many of my secrets, but I think I've read the entire series 11 times.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious nerd. You're like PhD nerd.
Yeah.
So, okay. And so would you say you like the movie, that's your favorite book series? Would that be your favorite movies also? Or do you have a favorite movie?
Those ones I would definitely watch the most. Favorite movies. See, I'm too much of a dabbler. Like I'd be like, oh, I've watched that. There's so many other movies I need to go watch. So it's really hard for me to like rewatch or reread things because there's so many more other things I want to go play around with.
Okay. So, and that's really good that, the mindfulness and the nature, but what I think is so neat is that even though you live in Fargo, it doesn't take very far to get right back into nature. Would you find that?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Tell us about, you've been watching this particular group of birds outside your apartment?
Yeah, so I live in the best part of Fargo. The river is basically across the street from me. Yeah, and probably right about when I moved in, I saw a Cooper's hawk flying around the neighborhood, and to see it every once in a while going around. And then earlier this spring, I found its nest and then was able to watch its 3 chicks sort of grow up, and they're figuring out how to fly now. So now every time I walk by there's immature hawk calls squawking away and watching them try and figure out their way through the trees.
Oh, okay. Well, I just love that. And I could probably go down 1,000 different rabbit holes of all your interests. But thank you for educating us, and thank you for taking up the torch of solving problems. You're the next generation. Are you generation Y?
I'm Gen Z.
Oh, you're Gen Z. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. And it gives me a lot of hope as a Gen Xer, the bridge. But so this is one of my favorite questions that I always ask everybody. I don't know, your answer might be super long because of and that's okay. Take as long as you want. But what is your favorite thing about North Dakota?
In one word, the land.
Mm.
North Dakota, I think, is one of the most beautiful places in the world. In all aspects. I love driving out in the middle of the prairie and feel like you're going to fall off the world into the sky. It's so flat. Prairie ecosystems themselves are super interesting. Only 1% of old growth prairie still exists in the world, and quite a bit of it is in North Dakota. Then also the Badlands. There's no place in the world like them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's deep enough to make sure we preserve it. And that's what you're going to do. Well, Clara, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the whole world will keep our eyes on you, Clara Derby. She'll be running for office in our lifetime and solving the problems. Thank you.
Dr. Shelley.